You know that big 10-mark question on diversity? It can feel kind of intimidating, right? But what if I told you there's a clear formula for success? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down that exact winning formula. Seriously, by the end of this, you'll have a rock-solid framework to grab every single one of those marks.
The entire question really just boils down to this one image, a set of scales. On one side, you've got the argument that diversity fractures a nation, and on the other, the idea that it actually strengthens it. Our job? It's to weigh the evidence from the sources and deliver a final, balanced judgment. But hang on, this isn't just about sharing your opinion. It's about mastering a very specific exam technique. It's all about showing the examiner that you can build a sophisticated, evidence-based argument that hits every single point on their marking scheme. And here is that path, laid out for you. We're going to follow these 3 steps to a T. First, we build the agree case. Then, we craft the disagree case. And finally, step 3, that's the masterstroke that's going to unlock those top-tier marks. So let's dive into step 1. Okay, first things first, we have to build a powerful argument for one side of the debate. As you can see, we're loading up the agree side of our scale, making the strongest case we can that an increasingly diverse society can, in fact, be bad for national identity. Our mission here is super clear. We're taking the stance that diversity can be a threat, and we're going to use source A and source E as our hard evidence. The core idea we're proving is that if diversity isn't managed really carefully, it can lead to fractured communities and even hostility. Source A gives us our first piece of ammunition, and it's all about France's assimilation policy, forcing minorities to just conform and, well, disappear into the mainstream. It leads directly to them losing their identity. And this perfectly hits those key phrases from the marking scheme: a diminished sense of belonging and alienation. I mean, when people feel like they're not seen, how can you build cohesion? It becomes basically impossible. And then, source E comes in and adds even more weight to our agree side of the scale. It talks about how a place like Singapore, with all its rapid changes, has to work ever harder to keep its society together. And what happens without that massive effort? You get friction. You get strained relationships, hostility, and disharmony. This visual of a broken bridge, that's exactly what it feels like. Okay, we've built a really strong agree case, but a top-level answer can't be one-sided, right? Now we need to show the examiner we can argue the other side just as well. It's time to balance those scales and build our disagree case. And this is where we pull out a really clever high-level move. I like to call it the source splitter technique. We're going to take the exact same source we just used to argue for division, source E, and we're going to flip it to argue for unity. This shows some serious analytical skill. So looking at source E from another angle, we see the argument completely flips. The source actually calls these challenges a good test and reminder that can rally citizens to stand together. So the crucial point here is that the friction caused by diversity can actually become a catalyst, forcing a society to consciously work on its bonds and build stronger unity. And source F just drives this point right home. It explicitly states that the Singaporean identity is stronger because the nation has weathered many storms. The process of navigating those sensitive issues, the hard work, is what actually bonds our people together and leads to greater unity. So it's not about the absence of problems, but about overcoming them together. That's what forges a real identity. All right, so we've got a balanced argument using the sources. This is good. This gets you good marks, probably a 7 or an 8. But we're not aiming for good. We're aiming for a perfect 10. To get there, we need the masterstroke, that final step that just elevates your whole answer. Here's the formula for those last 2 marks. It's contextual knowledge plus a balanced conclusion. This is where you step outside the given sources and show the examiner you can think critically about the issue in the real world and provide a thoughtful, final judgment. For contextual knowledge, you need a specific real-world example, and the French ban on religious attire in public schools, it's a perfect one. It links directly back to source A and our agree argument. It proves that when a government tries to force assimilation by ignoring individual identities, it doesn't create unity. It actually fuels protests and increases the complexity of building a national identity. And finally, we deliver our balanced conclusion, our final verdict on the scales. The key insight here is that diversity isn't inherently good or bad. It just brings challenges that have to be managed. This visual of interlocking gears says it all. It requires deliberate and sustained efforts from both the government and its citizens to work together and forge a shared identity. So that's the whole strategy, from start to finish. Now let's put it all together into one powerful, memorable summary that you can basically take with you right into the exam hall. This right here is your memorization matrix, your entire game plan on a single slide. On the left, you've got the agree case, source A showing alienation, source E showing strained relationships. In the middle, the disagree case. Flip source E to show how challenges rally citizens, and use source F to show how storms create unity. And on the right, the evaluation for those extra 2 marks, your real-world example of the French man, and your balanced conclusion about deliberate efforts. Just visualize this and you'll know exactly what to do. And there you have it, the complete framework, broken down step by step. The path to 10 marks is no longer a mystery. You have the structure, you have the techniques, and you have the key phrases. So the only question left is, are you ready to go in there and absolutely master this debate?